Hi, everyone. My name is Suzanne Hume, Cleaners for Kids. I am the founder and director, and I would just like to welcome you to this podcast. Our webinar, I should say, our panel discussion webinar. We're going to be talking about EPA rollbacks. This is part 2. And we've got our youth board with us. So excited for you to hear their bright ideas and all the research that they're doing. We'll also be joined by people from many organizations. We're excited to have Dr. Mustafa Santiago Ali, formerly of the EPA for 24 years, a part of Hip Hop Caucus and an environmental justice champion on our call. We're also proud to have Surfrider on our call, the Sierra Club, Food and Water Watch, and many others. Thank you so much for being on the call. Climate Reality, Eco Rotary, a great part of Rotary International around the world doing important projects. Our youth board, they've worked so hard to bring this great information for you. And so if you guys can type questions in the chat, and Darren will explain that in just a second. So on with us tonight, we have a youth board member, Kevin, and he is a nursing student. And hi, Kevin. So he will be a nursing student. We have Darren, and she is applied math, probably going to Berkeley. And she is just amazing as well, working so hard. We have Liana, and she's climate action, excited for that. She's also a senior, planning on attending UCSD. We also have Hannah, and Hannah is a junior right now, and anyway, excited for all that she's doing. She is also does athletes against synthetic turf to try to reduce plastics, and has done a lot of work on no idling. We have Judith on our call, our artist, and who's going to welcome you, all K-12 students, to do important things, ways to get involved. And Darren will explain to you about community service that you can be getting, all K-12 students, for this call, and also how you can enter our contest on cleanersforkids.org. Okay, so we have that. We have John on the call, of course, information security, making sure everything is secure. Jay Klopfenstein, who is all things environmental. We have Dr. Yeah, of course, I know. So Dr. Mustafa Santiago Ali, super excited about that. We also have Dr. Amelie Catalan, our water expert, PhD, postdoc from Berkeley, and so many more. Thank you again for joining us. And so excited, and I will love to introduce Darren. And yeah, so take it away, Darren. Go ahead. I can't hear you, girl. Darren, you're muted. So I'm just going to go ahead and talk for a second, and we're going to try to fix this. I can see that the youth board is muted. So we're going to be unmuting the youth board right now. As you can see, we're new to this, and so we're just building our skills as we can. So there we go. Darren, you are now unmuted. So take it away, Darren. Still can't hear you. Let's try again. I'm not quite sure what's going on.
Okay.
We just were online. There you go. Gotcha, girl.
Okay. Sorry, I was trying to use my phone. I don't think it was working. Okay. Thank you for the introduction. If you didn't hear earlier, my name is Darren, and I'm part of the youth board here at cleanersforkids.org. First of all, I'd just like to welcome everyone. As Suzanne said, there's a lot of amazing people who are participating in this webinar, as well as people who are listening in. The title of this webinar is EPA Rollbacks in Our Future, Part 2. So we'll be talking about a lot of those different rollbacks and how they affect us and how they will affect generations to come. If you have any questions, ideas, or suggestions, we invite you to write those in the chat box. We can read your questions in the chat box, but we won't be able to hear or see you, so just keep that in mind. Each question you write, we will donate $1 to a local charity that you'll help select. And also, remember, if your question is read aloud, you could hear your name unless you make your question anonymous. Secondly, if you'd like to be a future guest panelist, you can either write that in the chat box, including your name, and a point of contact, email address, or a phone, or you can contact us at cleanearthforkids.org. So now I would like to talk about our community service opportunities with cleanearthforkids.org. This is a wonderful infographic made by one of our youth board members, Janice. So there's a lot of different things you can do with us. I'm just gonna skip ahead. This is amazing, but this is a little bit more what I would be talking about. So there's multiple different things you could do with us. First, if you need community service hours, you could take notes on this webinar and submit them to notes@cleanearthforkids.org. And then you just need to include a picture or a link to your notes as proof that you did them, and your name and your school and the date. And I have an example there on the right. Secondly, you can enter our contests. There are 6 different categories of contests. There are a lot of different things you can do. Basically anything you do, art related, research related, writing related, that pertains to what we do as an organization, you will probably be able to get community service credit for. You just have to go onto cleanearthforkids.org and then click on Contest and Community Service. It should be on our homepage. Finally, you can directly volunteer with us. You can contact us through cleanearthforkids.org or email one of us. And there's a lot of opportunities we can work with you on what you like to do. So yeah. Okay, so I'm going to turn it over to Kevin. And so Kevin, what can you tell us about air pollution and health, especially pertaining to COVID-19?
Yes, thank you, Darren. So, if you could, before I answer, I would like to thank everyone for joining us tonight in this web chat once more. And again, remind everyone to type up their questions in the chat. I should probably introduce myself first. I'm Kevin. I'm the poet of Clean Earth for Kids. You can check out my poems on our website, cleanearthforkids.org. Tonight, I will go over what air pollution is, what it is made of, how to check for it, and where it comes from. Oh, I'll also be talking about a new research which links air pollution to an increase in mortality, or in other words, death and severity in coronavirus. So, air pollution is the presence of a harmful substance or particles in the air which can cause major damage to any living thing that takes it in, according to CaliforniaAir.org. So these particles, which I mentioned before, are very small. They can be smaller than a fine grain of sand or strand of hair. Because they are so small, they are hard to see. And as you can see here at this ruler in the side, you can probably imagine how small the particles are. If they are almost 3 times smaller than a millimeter. Particulate matter, go back. Particulate matter can be a variety of things, like heavy metals, lead, gas particles, or something like dust. The smaller particle, like the ones I listed, they are more likely linked to health problems, or they're currently being linked to them. Now, you can't really see air pollution and what kind of particles are in the air since they're super small. However, with an app like Air Bubbles or even the weather app on your phone, you can easily check the air quality. They're easy apps to use. If you don't have a phone, you can look it up on the internet. So here's the air quality index now. The higher the number, the more dangerous it is for really everybody to go outside. If you're going outside for a fresh breath of air or exercise, I recommend checking the air quality. All right, now it's time to talk about coronavirus and air pollution. So according to a New York Times article, in an analysis of 3,080 countries in the United States, researchers at the Harvard University T.H. Chen School of Public Health found that higher levels of the tiny dangerous particles in air known as PM 2.5, particulate matter 2.5, it's the thing I was going over in the previous slide, were associated with higher death rates from the disease. Also in the same paper, the researchers found that if Manhattan had lowered its average particulate matter level by just a single unit or 1 microgram per cubic meter over the past 20 years, so basically just a little bit over the past 20 years, the borough, or in other words, town, would most likely have seen 248 fewer COVID-19 deaths by this point in the outbreak. But air pollution doesn't just affect people with corona. In fact, there have been multiple studies which have found that exposure to fine particulate matter puts people at risk for lung cancer, heart attacks, strokes, and even premature death. Okay, so there are sources of air pollution, if you don't know already. It varies per state, but industry and energy seem to be probably, and transportation seem to be the biggest. There have been rollbacks and proposals to help the coal and fuel industry, fossil fuel industries, produce some more, and it takes back their limits as well, and that's not good because, more air pollution. So President Donald Trump has made rollbacks. He's also proposed some rollbacks. I'll be going over 4 of them. You can check whether or not they've been pushed or on our website at cleanearthforkids.org. I think it's under the Harvard check. Excuse me. So President Donald Trump has proposed to eliminate Obama-era restrictions that in effect require newly built coal power plants to capture carbon dioxide emissions. And that's bad because we don't want more carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. Global warming. He has also proposed a legal justification for weakening an Obama-era rule limiting mercury emissions from coal power plants. So back in the 19th century, all the way to the 20th century, I think it was Mad Hatters used to use mercury as, a component to build hats, and they went bonkers. We don't really want that material that made those hatters, crazy in the air. He's also proposed a rule exempting certain types of power plants from putting from parts of an EPA rule limiting toxic discharge from power plants into public waterways. That's bad because, eventually that toxic discharge will make it into our drinking water, and we don't want that. He's finally, this isn't the only thing he's proposed, but it's what's on my slide. He's proposed to extend the lifespan of unlined coal ash holding areas. So coal ash is made of heavy metals like arsenic, lead, and mercury. And the holding areas for coal ash generally don't really do their job, especially when it rains, like right now in California, in Oceanside. It leaks out and it'll go into the ground and eventually into a public waterway, and then it'll get into our drinking water. So here are some solutions which, we could all do to reduce the amount of air pollution in the air, and maybe perhaps do something for the proposal. So we could drive less, or do it when really it's needed, which is a lot, but You know, don't take it out for a joyride. You can turn off your engine when you're not using it. Don't idle, please. You can take a train, you can carpool, you can bike, you can hike. Wow, those rhyme. You can start a climate action plan, uh, or, and, you know, try to get one of those proposals unproposed, or do something for your community, your district, your country, or not country, but your state, well, your country even. Then you can eliminate pesticides for healthy soil. We can do it. Cleanup for Kids is doing their best. We're doing our best to inform people of what they can do to help the environment and so on. On our website, you can find a lot of things. And so on. You can sing, you can write poetry like me, you can write an essay, you can even write this or make a slideshow like I have to help others be informed of what's going on. And you can do that for community service. Woohoo! All right, I'm going to now hand this over to Hannah. Thank you for listening to me.
Hi, I'm Hannah Smith. Thank you, Kevin. So, Judith, last week you shared your sign called Protect Air, which shows children playing at a park and a red X over the air pollution coming from a power plant to bring awareness to air pollution in our national parks. Your artwork also included a no idling sign to remind people to turn off their engines, because 1 minute of idling has more carbon monoxide than 3 packs of cigarettes. You could check our no idling page under Team 3 on cleanearthforkids.org. We have free resources for students, teachers, schools, and cities. Please go to cleanearthforkids.org to hear our No Idling podcast. cleanearthforkids.org youth board members were on a podcast called Tiny Climate Action, host with Mayela. You can listen to our podcast and get ideas how to reduce air pollution by turning off your cars when you are parked. You can see Judith's no idling signs if you go to the contest page on cleanearthforkids.org. We have a K-12 contest they can enter, such as art, music, writing, presentations, and much more, to show projects to help protect clean air, clean water, oceans, rivers, forests, and wildlife, and how we can work together to promote awareness for Clean Earth for Kids. Judith, thank you so much for protecting clean air and working to stop air pollution. You can see Judith's artwork and more contests and doing community service. The Trump administration rollback of 95 important environmental protections for our air, water, land, and wildlife are devastating for the health of the people. Rollbacks of air pollution in our national parks are so devastating, Darren.
Okay, sorry. Thank you, Hannah. Toxic air pollution.
Yeah, Hannah, great job. And Darren, one sec. So Judith was able to join back on the call. So sometimes we have technical difficulties. So guys, Judith, are you able to answer the question and talk about your beautiful art that's on Cleaners for Kids, and the important things that you do and how you're working to protect our national parks from toxic air pollution and protect all of us. As we will hear later from Dr. Mustafa Santiago Ali, air pollution is an environmental justice issue and problem that we are working to solve. Leanna on our youth board will talk about solar as a right. And in California, we're working on a bill here to make it so, because we believe that all of us should have access to local clean energy. So that's exciting. I'd like to just stop for a second and say thank you to Kevin, awesome job presenting. Hannah, fantastic information, and I'm excited to hear more about your questions and hear from Judith as well about her art. This is, Judith has made this and others. And on the call tonight, we have some students from NAACP, Youth Board, and or youth, I should say. And we're really excited about working with you. And I'm so glad that you guys are on the call. And we also have NAACP youth leader, Debbie, here in North County in California. And we know that Mustafa Santiago Ali was just on a call with NAACP on the East Coast. And so we're excited to hear from him about environmental justice, and also he will be talking about clean car rollbacks under the Trump administration. And we'll hear from Leanna as well about the importance of renewable energy and solar. So again, so excited, and everybody is welcome to, K-12 students are welcome to do their art, video clips, all the great things in the contest that we have. So Judith, are you on the call? Are you still on the call? Were you able to have your internet come back up?
Yes.
So waiting. Awesome, Judith. Okay, yeah, there you are, girl. Okay, hey, so Hannah asked a question about air pollution and our parks. So Hannah, would you like to ask the question again to Judith, and then she has a chance to respond?
Yes. Okay. Can you please tell us why the rollbacks of air pollution in our national parks are so devastating?
Yes. Thank you, Hannah. Hello, I am the artist of cleanersforkids.org. I believe that, toxic air pollution is devastating wherever it occurs. Air pollution is an environmental justice issue. People of color and people with low income face the most air pollution because they are more likely to live near highways, airports, power plants, coal mines, and factories. Air pollution has devastating effects on people's lungs and hearts, and now with COVID-19, more people will have health issues and will be greatly affected by it. So if air pollution hurts children and families living near sources of air pollution, we should work together to stop these sources. How do we do that, you may ask? Well, we need renewable energy now. We need to stop burning fossil fuels that poison our air and water, making people sick. Can you even believe we have air pollution in our national parks and our wilderness areas? Sorry. Did you know that toxic air pollution is affecting 90% of our national parks? Did you know that the distance people can see at our national parks is actually shorter by about 50 miles? Please stop and think about that for a second. In 90% of our national parks, air pollution is blocking how far we can see. We currently have air pollution in our national parks and in our cities. Our country, our people are being ruined by air pollution. Our national parks should be there for everyone to see and enjoy. People look forward to visiting our national parks so they can take pictures of wildlife, play in the playgrounds, have picnics, and go hiking. Our national parks should be free of air pollution.
Thank you, Judith. Can you please explain what haze is?
Yes. Haze is made up of small particles of toxic air pollution. It includes particulate matter, sulfur dioxide, nitrogen oxide, VOCs, ozone, smoke, and dust.
In the past, there has been some kind of rule or regulation which has enabled us to protect ourselves as well as the environment and atmosphere.
Yes, in fact, there is this regulation called the Haze Rule. It is part of the Clean Air Act. It was strengthened by the Obama administration in 2016. The purpose of the Haze Rule is to protect clean air, reduce air pollution, improve visibility in our national parks. But the Trump administration is rolling back this rule. The Haze Rule should not be rolled back.
Judith, why is the haze rule so important?
We must protect our air. We need the Haze Rule. Without the Haze Rule, tons of toxic sulfur dioxide and nitrogen oxide will be scattered all throughout our air by burning fossil fuels, oil, gas, and coal. It is important because when we breathe in air pollution, it irritates our eyes, our nose, our throat, and airways, and can cause us to cough, have shortness of breath, or have a tight feeling around the chest. People with asthma will be more affected because these tiny particles can make the matter worse. I'm really concerned about the rollback of the Haze Rule and the undoing of all the 95 environmental protections done by the Trump administration. It is truly heartbreaking. You can visit our cleanerforkids.org homepage for a list of the 95 rollbacks and also a tracker from Columbia and Harvard University that shows the status of each rollback.
Judith, what is the EPA and why are they doing these rollbacks?
The EPA stands for Environmental Protection Agency. EPA is supposed to be helping us have clean air and have less air pollution. Instead, they're making so many cuts to environmental pollution, such as air, soil, and water, harming people all over the world. This is another terrible rollback, according to showing the picture of okay. It's number 11. It's limiting some of the states' ability to oversee and reduce air pollution. It seems that the EPA is pushing more air pollution and giving polluters, people who are responsible for contaminating or poisoning our environment, a green light to go ahead and harm our air in national parks. And instead of coming up with plans to protect parks, people, and our climate, it seems like the Trump administration is encouraging the fossil fuel industries to avoid responsibility for cleaning up their mess.
Thank you, Judith. Okay, you guys, we must use our voices, our art, our music, our presentations, and have discussions and podcasts telling everyone we know so that we have a chance to save our air and our water and people's lives because air pollution is very deadly. Air pollution kills almost 1 in 10 children under the age of 5 every year. If you did not hear that, air pollution kills about 1 in 10 children under the age of 5 every single year. Air pollution kills about between 4.6 and 9 million people per year. And did you know that air pollution is linked to type 2 diabetes? There is new research showing this I read 3 articles on it last night. We have these articles posted on cleanearthforkids.org under Team 3, air pollution. And there is one quote that I got from this website that stated, air pollution is a leading cause of insulin resistant and incident of type 2 diabetes mellitus. This is important to me because I have someone very close to me with diabetes. We need ways to prevent illnesses. Reducing air pollution is important. Soon, Leanna will be talking about our solar energy and climate action plan. We have Sonia Robinson listening to this webinar. She is the chair of the San Diego NAACP Environmental Justice Group that cleanearthforkids.org is on with other organizations. There is a bill called SB 953, Solar as a Right. It says that local clean energy should be a right for energy is a way to reduce fossil fuels. Darren, can you give us an update on what's been being done to stop toxic stuff like absitotes?
Yeah, thank you, Hannah. I have a presentation for this, so I'm going to share my screen really quickly. Okay. So asbestos, basically the rollback that is worsening asbestos in our country is the update to the Toxic Substances Control Act, or TSCA, and the gist of it is there are 10 substances that they outline the extent of the research for human health effects from these substances, and they're narrowing the breadth of their research for asbestos. And this is harmful for a plethora of reasons, one of which has to do with human health. So I'm going to be talking about why asbestos poses numerous health risks for our population. So asbestos is usually found in older homes because before it was outlawed, it was found in specific materials. It was found in like textured paint, roof tiles, things like that. When it is inhaled, asbestos makes its way through the lungs, which is why the damage it causes is limited to the lungs and chest cavity. And although it's localized in that area, it still has it can cause very serious damage to the body as a whole. So there's 2 different things that I'll be talking about: chronic diseases and cancers. So asbestosis is a chronic disease. Basically, it just means scarring in the lungs. It causes breathing difficulty and pain. In a study by Stephen Markowitz, the mortality rate for people who are exposed to asbestos as opposed to the general population was increased at a rate of 3.6 times, and combined with people who smoke, it'd be 7.4 times. Then secondly, there's pleural disease, and the pleura is the chest cavity, so it affects the lungs and the chest cavity. There's different types of pleural disease. There's thickening of the membrane through plaque or scarring. There's buildup of fluid in the chest cavity. In extreme cases, it can cause folded lung, which is where the membrane is so deformed that it folds in on itself, which restricts lung capacity. The mortality rate varies with each type of disease, but most of them can be fatal. Mesothelioma is cancer from the lungs and the pleural membrane, which affects breathing and muscle strength. The 5-year relative survival rate for this cancer is 10%, and the relative survival rate for people who weren't here last week is basically comparing the general population to people with this cancer over 5 years, how many of them from the diagnosis on are still alive. So 10% is not looking too good for them. And secondly is lung cancer, which I'm sure you're all familiar, but it's a tumor in the lungs, and the 5-year relative survival rate for that is 18.6%. Many of these effects show themselves later in life, meaning it's hard to predict the severity of one's symptoms immediately after exposure. So although these rollbacks are affecting us now as well, people who will be exposed to asbestos in the future due to lack of research and like the thoroughness of the research into why this is harmful, people will be showing symptoms well after their exposure, so decades into the future, possibly. For all of these, there's not really a cure for asbestos-related health effects, and the damage is irreversible. We'll be talking a lot more about chlorpyrifos next week, but I just wanted to briefly touch on it. The rollback is the final order denying objections to March 2017. That's the official name of it, but it basically means they're denying a ban on chlorpyrifos, which is also very harmful for humans. You can be exposed to chlorpyrifos through your food or by making contact with plants which are recently treated with a pesticide. So not only in your food, but in like the nature around you. With acute toxicity brings an array of symptoms, including tremors, wheezing, blurred vision, and paralysis. But chronic toxicity is what affects many children because they have twice the levels of chlorpyrifos in their bodies as adults. So they're having more repeated or increased exposure to chlorpyrifos over time. And this leads to developmental and neurological damage. For example, there's psychological disorders linked to chlorpyrifos like autism, ADHD, severe depression. It also can impede memory, lengthens your reaction time, and disrupts healthy sleeping patterns with things like insomnia. Okay, and then finally I'll be talking about lead.
Darren, can I just stop right there for a second?
Yeah.
So thank you so much for sharing the important information about what's going on with these Trump rollbacks. So what Darren is talking about, and she's giving us so much important information, is that these rollbacks are affecting us when we can no longer have the right to protect ourselves and our kids from toxic substances, as Darren was saying, such as asbestos. As we know, we need asbestos to be banned, and she talked about chlorpyrifos. Well, next week, we're hoping that we will have on California Congressman Mike Levin, who's been very supportive to all of us, met with our youth board, and has co-sponsored a bill to ban chlorpyrifos from all 50 states. Right now, and if Darren, if you can put up the chlorpyrifos screen real quick. Yes, okay. So chlorpyrifos, this toxic pesticide that hurts the brains of children, was banned, and then the Trump administration brought this back. And that is just unbelievable and very sad for all of us. But what California did, California is the leader along with New York. So California worked to ban chlorpyrifos. So right now, if you live in California, please know that chlorpyrifos is no longer allowed in the state of California. And in the state of New York, chlorpyrifos will be banned in 2021. They're working on that now. And in Hawaii, chlorpyrifos will be banned in 2022. Here's the thing. What about the 47 other states? Please work with us at cleanersforkids.org. Let's write letters. Let's support Mike Levin as he tries very hard to get this passed through the House of Representatives and the Senate. So this is what we do at Cleaners for Kids, working with other organizations. Darren has written zillions, as our youth board has as well, of these important emails. We've made a ton of progress. So for example, here in Oceanside, California, we were able to help pass the first IPM, limiting toxic pesticides, and getting things like 2,4-D banned. On the call tonight, we have Christine Gorman, and she is a warrior against pesticides, and so many important people on this call. Thank you, Food and Water Watch, for being on this call. Thank you, Sierra Club. Thank you, for all of you, Surfrider, for showing up and helping us in California to make these things happen. And also the San Diego County, let me think about this, San Diego Board of Supervisors, yes. So they are now working on an IPM, an Integrated Pest Management Plan. So in other words, if someone doing maintenance on a park sees a weed, they can't just go and go squish, squish, you know, and start spraying toxic pesticides. That's not the way that rolls out. And so we were also able to ban glyphosate in San Diego County, and this is helping over 3 million people. We've worked with non-toxic neighborhoods, non-toxic Carlsbad, so many of the non-toxic over on the East Coast. There's Dover and so many others that are also working to ban synthetic turf, because we understand about toxic crumb rubber and terrible effects of plastics. And we'll have one of our consultants, Dr. Sarah-Jean Royer from Scripps Institute, talking about that as well. We want to ban toxic substances and protect our kids. Darren, thank you so much for talking about asbestos. We're excited to have our youth from NAACP and other youth on this call. So this may seem like a lot of information, but here's the deal. We're rolling up our sleeves and we're working hard. And we're connecting with people like Dr. Mustafa Santiago Ali. Okay, you guys, he's with like Hip Hop Caucus. He's in the know, and he has an opportunity soon to talk. So, you know, hold on. I know it seems scary. Kevin shared stuff, Darren sharing things, and Hannah and Judith and Leanna will be sharing. But here's about the bad news about these Trump rollbacks, but here is the good news. People all over the whole country are coming together and they are working hard. So please let us know what you would like to do. Like Kevin said, we have 16. Darren said, you know, we have contests and community service. We're ready to work with you. So we're excited about that. So thank you, Darren. I just wanted to interject. You didn't brag on the great work you've done to help stop pesticides, you know, not just in Oceanside and the County of San Diego, but connecting with people in states all over the country. We appreciate the work, the hard work of, you know, Beyond Pesticides, like I said, non-toxic neighborhoods, and so many great, important organizations, and continue you know, to be so happy to be supported by CARB, California Air Resources Board. They gave us a grant. We're working hard. As you know, I don't take a salary. I'm doing this 24/7, 7 days a week. Jay Kloppenstein does not take a salary. He's been Teacher of the Year. We have so many people, Dr. Emily Catalan, none of us take salaries. We put this money to use to go for planting trees, no idling signs, suggestions from the youth to help give scholarships and those sorts of things. And we're so excited to work with all of you. So Darren, if you can talk now about lead. We know that there is no safe level of lead, none. So we want to talk about lead. So could you share your screen on lead? And then after you share, we would love Leanna to introduce Dr. Santiago, or Mustafa Santiago Ali, and be able to hear his ideas on environmental justice and what we can do. So please proceed, Darren. So thank you so much.
Okay. So for lead, the rollback mostly pertains to wildlife. It is reintroducing lead bullets and tackle to public lands. When exposed to lead, an animal animal stomach acid dissolves it into lead salts, which are then absorbed into the brain's bloodstream, and those are what are toxic to the body. For example, lead salts can substitute for metal ions like calcium and zinc that are used in the body for vital functions, and this can lead to cell damage. So this will affect neurological areas, the central nervous systems, specific organs and muscles. In extreme cases, acute lead poisoning causes death by organ failure. This has an adverse effect on wildlife populations, which offsets the balance of the ecosystem, and is just overall not good for the environment. For instance, according to an observational study published by the Reviews of Environmental Contamination and Toxicology, up to 50% of adult common loon deaths are attributed to the ingestion of lead fishing gear in areas where it's commonly used. Once one species population is significantly decreased, it will decrease the population of their predators and severely increase the population of their prey. So it offsets the balance of the populations and can offset the ecosystem as a whole. So for the sake of time, I guess that will be it for now, but I'd like to hand it off to Leanna.
Okay. And I'd just like to say real quick, Darren, thank you so much for that. And we're very concerned about lead as an environmental justice issue. So we know that the rollback you were focusing on was looking at the lead bullets and wildlife. And we know that that's a problem in our environment, and our kids can get their hands on this, all of that. So we're worried about that. We're also worried about sources of lead and contamination and heavy metals from coal power plants. We're concerned about lead in synthetic turf fields. We're concerned about lead, and we want the ability to be able to regulate these things. We do not want these rollbacks. So I'm excited to hear from you. Thank you, Darren. Excellent job to all of you guys. These words, you're so amazing. You're so amazing. Just so proud of your amazing work and all that you're doing to help people throughout the world and the way that you connect with people. And I'm so excited about your future. So yes, Leanna, could you please share? Thank you.
Okay, can everyone hear me okay? Hello?
Hello, we can hear
Okay,
you.
perfect.
If you could be a little louder, that would be even better.
Alrighty.
But go ahead.
Hi everyone, my name is Leanna Cortez. I am a youth board member and co-team lead for Team 1, which is Climate Action Plans, Climate Change, and Renewable Energy. Today I'm going to talk to you guys about environmental justice, which is something I'm personally passionate about, and solar renewable energy and how they actually interconnect. So just a brief overview, I'm going to discuss what is environmental justice, what is SB 953, how they interconnect, and solutions in the works. So what is environmental justice? Environmental justice is the fair treatment and meaningful involvement of all people, regardless of race, color, national origin, or income with respect to the development, implementation, and enforcement of environmental laws, regulations, and policies. This sounds like a handful, but let me just kind of break it down to you based off of two key words: fair treatment and meaningful involvement. So fair treatment as in means no one group will bear disproportionate shares of negative environmental consequences, such as air pollution, restrictive policies, and so forth. And meaningful involvement as in they have equal opportunities to work on implementation and put their ideas on how they can work towards the health of the community and the health of the environment and so forth. So what is SB 953? SB 953 restricts anti-competitive behavior by utilities towards clean energy sources, such as solar and energy storage. It ensures owners will never be singled out with discriminatory fees for making a good choice for the environment. But how? Well, the bill basically prohibits utilities from imposing certain fees on individual consumers, as well as schools, businesses, and government buildings that install solar panels. So, and it is a part of a broader legislative package towards California electric sectors and utilities. So how do these connect? Well, for one, it sets access to clean energy as a right. So it expands access to the purchase and implementation of cleaner energy sources such as solar to all parties involved. It also removes unfair limitations made to certain people and organizations. So it bans discriminatory fees meant to discourage use of clean energy sources. It also decreases the supersize grid. So it limits the chances of large wildfires and blackouts because it lessens the enormous grid currently in place due to the lack of clean energy sources to the majority of Californians as a whole. So a good quote I like to look at is that SB 953 bill protects families with solar from unfair utility fees, helps California achieve its ultimate climate goals, and protects local solar jobs. So environmental justice is all about making sure that nobody's disproportionately impacted, and this bill is really important because it makes sure that everyone has equal access to clean energy sources. So I know this can sound like pretty heavy and everything, but there's a lot of people working for solutions, and especially with the implementation of this, not implementation, but the introduction of this Senate bill, it's really important that we focus on what other solutions going on to ensure that environmental injustices don't occur, as well as that things like air pollution and clean energy are worked on. So a few people I'd like to note and thank for working for solutions in terms of environmental justice. Sonia Robinson, Chair of the Environmental Justice Committee of the NAACP, and all the members involved. Thank you so much for all your hard work and everything you're doing. As well as Dr. Mustafa Santiago Ali, who is on the call, and I will have him introduce himself and ask him a few questions regarding clean car standard rollbacks. So Dr. Mustafa, if you would like to unmute yourself.
So Leanna, I'll just go ahead and talk for a second while we're waiting for Dr. Mustafa Santiago Ali to present. He can talk to us, of course. We're excited to hear about his ideas and information, so much great information. As someone who's worked at the EPA for decades formerly, has done so many important things. Sorry, a little tongue tied there. So many important things. Absolutely. So, Dr. Mustafa Santiago Ali, would you like to? We would love to hear from you. And right now on this call, Leanna is sharing her screen. So if you would like to share your screen, you can do that, or we can leave this screen up as it is. So as a panelist, you can share your screen if you'd like to, using the green box below or not. So I'm excited to hear from you, and thank you so much for all you do for all of us. And great job, Leanna. Okay, I'll be quiet. Okay, thank you so much.
Okay. Yeah. Hey, everybody. Can you guys see me?
We can, and as a panelist, but it's not showing on the larger screen.
I can stop sharing my my presentation, and I'll put it back up after he's done, because I still have a few more slides to go.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah, and I'll be real brief because you guys are amazing. You are lit. You are just incredible. I started work on these issues when I was a student, and by no means that I have, the depth of knowledge that each and every one of you do at this moment. So you guys are just incredible. And you are also one of the reasons that we will most definitely win on these issues. So thank you so much for being the leaders that you are and for making real change happen. And it's also a blessing to see, so many young leaders who really have a good grasp on what environmental injustice and justice is. We've had some real significant challenges in our country over the years. We've made some bad decisions, from the time with slavery to the women's suffrage movement, to civil rights, and to the environmental movement of the late 60s and 70s that, so many folks had to get engaged and push to make change happen. But change actually happened because folks were willing to come together, pool their resources, their knowledge, and their ability to push and hold people accountable, our politicians and others. And you guys are in that same body of folks who have been able to actually help frame out, what our country is today. But, when we're talking about environmental injustice, environmental racism, environmental equity, it was interesting. I guess I've been doing this for too long now, because when you shared that definition, I actually helped write that definition a long time ago. And I like to simplify things for folks because, environmental injustice is really, our country, decision makers pushing everything that nobody else wants into communities of color, into lower wealth communities, and on indigenous land. And that is where, we have to focus, because if we're going to win on climate change, we have to address these injustices that are happening inside of our most vulnerable communities. It's always interesting, and I work with some of the, top scientists around the planet when we talk about air pollution. And sometimes we'll talk about parts per million or parts per billion, and those are important scientific conversations to have. but I have this formula that I've used over the years, and it's this. If Mrs. Ramirez or Mr. Johnson doesn't get it, then we've got a lot of work to do to make sure that we're speaking the language that everyday people need to hear for them to see the connections that are going on inside their lives. You know, when we talk to folks, we should share some of the facts that really help people to understand why the work on air pollution and water pollution and our land is so incredibly important. We have 100,000 people to almost 200,000 people each year who are dying prematurely from air pollution. That's more people dying from air pollution than are dying from gun violence. And we know how important the conversation is and the actions for us to be able to address what's going on with gun violence. We know that with this number of folks who are dying from air pollution, it's more people than are dying from car crashes. So if we know this, then we have to ask the important question: why would any administration, whether Democrat or Republican or independent, why would they roll back the numbers of the statutes and laws that many of you shared earlier that are out there that just give us the basic protections in our country? You know, we have 24 million people who have asthma. We've got 7 million kids. And we know disproportionately as African American and Latinx students and others who are going to the emergency rooms and the ones who are losing their lives. So, in knowing that, why would we roll back, you know, things like the Clean Power Plan, you know, which has a focus on helping to make sure that our air is cleaner? And not just that our air is cleaner, but also that, you know, the things that are coming out of those stacks are poisoning the communities around them and poisoning our country. And we can talk a little bit about that here in a second. But it also is that same pollution that is warming up our oceans, warming up our planet, and that are causing all of these things that are happening in the climate emergency. We also know that that pollution that is coming out of the stacks is also creating these chronic medical conditions that some folks had already referenced some of it, whether we're talking about heart disease, liver and kidney disease. We're talking about cancer clusters that are out there. We're also talking about, you know, all of the various lung diseases that you all mentioned, and we have to paint the picture for folks. And folks in the media are finally starting to pay attention. You know, with the new Harvard study that came out and some of the other studies that myself and others have been a part of and have talked about for a number of years, we now know that COVID-19 looks for folks who have those pre-existing medical conditions. So yes, you know, everybody is vulnerable in this space, but we know there are certain communities, because of the historic things that have been done, that make them more vulnerable. And we have to just address that. It was so refreshing to also hear the young sister who was talking about our parks and the pollution that is currently going on in our parks, because as I often share with folks, and you guys know a little bit about my history, working at EPA, working on Capitol Hill, advising White Houses, working at the Hip Hop Caucus, which I really, really loved, and we'll talk a little bit about the power of artists and entertainers. But you know, we've got to make sure that people also understand that the same pollution that is making people sick and killing people is the same pollution that is impacting our wildlife. And if we allow ourselves to be separated, then it makes those who have been doing these negative things stronger and gives them the opportunity to continue to play folks against each other. And the beauty of the youth movement, which I love, and the environmental justice movement, is that folks understand, you know, that we all have to come together. You know, the beauty is it doesn't matter if you are Black or white or Latinx or Indigenous or Asian or Pacific Islander or gay or straight, everybody coming together to actually make real change happen is the new paradigm. It's the 21st century paradigm. You know, we tried the 20th century paradigm, which got us into many of these problems that we currently face. This new 21st century paradigm that you guys are leading is one that will actually help us to win. And it was also great to hear you guys talk about lead. You know, we've got over 1 million young people and others who have been impacted by lead, you know, over the years. Everybody knows what happened in Flint. I was there. You know, everybody knows about the neurological disorders. That is a part of environmental injustices that are going on. But we've got 3,000 locations across the country that have higher levels of lead than Flint does. So, you know, the work continues in that space. And some of it is, you know, connected. of course, to, some of these rollbacks that EPA is doing, but I also encourage folks to look broader than the Environmental Protection Agency. Because when I was in the government, I was leading 17 federal agencies and departments. So HUD is critically important in our sets of conversations, the resources and the actions, that we can do. Our Department of Transportation is incredibly important as well, because for those of you who are students of history, and if you look at our highway system and our road system, in many instances, it was used to bring wealth into certain communities, to extract wealth from other communities, and to dump off pollution. And for those of you who've worked on, the Clean Car Rule, or we've looked at some of that, you understand why that's so critically important. Because of all the diesel pollution from both cars and trucks, and how that ends up in our most vulnerable communities. Communities, and I hope you guys just do a little research if you don't know about some of these places, like the Manchester community in Houston, Texas, a hardworking Latinx community that is literally surrounded by petrochemical facilities. And if you go there and you literally roll down the window of your car, you feel like you're breathing in gasoline fumes. I think about that community each and every time when I think about, when they talk about the lack of enforcement that they just put in place at the Environmental Protection Agency, and how this community and many other communities, will have so much more burden placed on them. They're literally living in a toxic soup. And we just have to be focused on these places and spaces to make real change happen. And some of the ways that we make change happen are the things that you guys have been talking about, which I'm just so incredibly excited to hear. And I look forward to being able to support you. Everybody's got a cell phone now. So we can capture, all of these various ways of sharing information with folks, from the presentations that you guys are doing to creating our own video content in an artistic way that actually connects with folks who maybe are not as interested in reading at that moment, but we can get them to the reading and the analysis by helping them to feel connected. The beauty when I was at the Hip Hop Caucus, when you get a chance to work with people like Common, when you get a chance to, be in the same space with folks like Beyonce or Rihanna or Anthony Smith or Vic Mensa or Wiz Khalifa, all of these folks who care about what's happening on the climate space and the environmental justice space are game changers. But each and every one of you also have that same ability through poetry, through music, through all kinds of other visual arts to actually help share a message of what's happening, but also a message of how change can actually take place. And we've got to do it. And the reason we've got to do it, because you all know what the IPCC and the National Climate Assessment reports have shared about. Now we're around 9 years and a few months before we hit the tipping point. I believe that if we all come together, if we get our innovation right, if we stop the utilization of fossil fuels, if we also address the systemic racism issues that have gone on in the past, and get resources to the places that need them, we can make real change happen. So I promised that I would be short and brief, and I'm going to stop right there. So if you guys have any questions, we can, unpack them and chop it up.
Thank you so much, Doctor. You truly inspire me, and I'm sure many of the other youth board members will say the same. And everything you said is completely right, and I thank you for that. Looking at the time, would you briefly go into the clean car rollbacks that are happening within the administration, just to kind of give just a simplified version to let all the attendees know about what's going on?
Yeah, we'll keep it very basic. So under the Obama administration, they understood that one of the main drivers of climate change was, of course, from our transportation system. And there are lots of different changes that need to happen in that space. But one of them, of course, is with our cars and diesel trucks. And one of the ways that you do that is through the tailpipes, making sure that less emissions are coming out. And for most everyday folks, they also want to make sure that they're getting better mileage. So it just makes sense to have a car or a vehicle that actually is going to get better mileage, because it actually puts more dollars back into your pocket, gives you more disposable income. Unfortunately, the current administration doesn't see value in that. Now, here's the really interesting thing, is that the car companies under the last administration, and you remember the last administration helped to bail them out. And, as we went through that recession, they were in favor at that time. A few of them now under this administration, but many still see value in the numbers that were set before of moving forward. But this administration has said, cars, trucks having, better fuel economy, not that important. And they've also said that even though, more people are going to die, it's okay for the emissions, to continue at a level that's unacceptable. So really it's about mileage and it's about, the pollution coming out of the tailpipes.
Yeah, this honestly, this information is devastating, of course, and I'm sure many other attendees don't necessarily feel the most positive about this. What advice would you give to them about what they could possibly do in regards to these rollbacks, or if there's anything going on that they could take part in?
Well, you just kind of have to continue to make your voice heard. When people don't hear your voice, they assume that you're okay with a situation. And they'll play you. They'll try and get over on you. So what I share with folks is, talk to your congressman. All of them have local offices. So make sure that you make an appointment, go in, have a conversation with them, talk to them about, what you want the moment to look like and what you want your future to look like, and that you will be a voter very soon. And that, I never tell anybody who to vote for, but you should vote for somebody who cares about your community. And you should just share that with them, that, you have some real concerns. Here are your concerns, and that, your tax dollars or your parents' tax dollars are paying their salary, and you don't want the tax dollars being used to damage your planet or to damage your communities.
Okay, thank you so much, Doctor, for that. My computer kind of had some technical difficulties, but I'm just going to briefly tell you guys what the last slide was in regards to. Basically, we've been talking a lot about solutions and local legislation and so forth, and about like how you can get involved. And I think a great thing to focus on at a local level is climate action plans. So for those of you who don't know what a climate action plan is essentially a detailed and strategic framework for measuring, planning, and reducing greenhouse gases emissions, and also just related climatic impacts. So I think a few weeks ago, I talked about the Climate Action Campaign, which is an organization that creates report cards for local climate action plans in San Diego County. They have gold, silver, and bronze. The gold is the top, and then bronze is the lowest. Some cities you guys may know are Solana Beach, Del Mar, Chula Vista, Imperial Beach, Carlsbad. Those have a bronze medal. Silver is City of San Diego, Encinitas, La Mesa, and then there's no cities at gold, which is extremely concerning. So when I talk about these climate action plans, I think it's important for everyone to know that you can have a voice in your local climate action plan. Typically, they have meetings where you can talk about what you would like to see on a climate action plan, things to be added, and they have like updates with the planners, and so you can kind of organize with them, express your concerns, what you think should be in there, what you think should be out in there, and so forth. Cleanerforkids.org, we have under Team 1, we have a lot of samples for schools, cities, and a multitude of different sample climate action plans that you can take as inspiration to your city if you do not have a climate action plan, or if you do have one that is not implemented or is taking updates. I know a lot of them don't necessarily focus on like things like no idling. A few of them have community choice energy, which is really important, especially what we were talking about with SB 953, with clean energy choices and allowing that throughout the community without discriminatory fees. And so forth. That if you do not have a climate action plan in your city, I think it's important to reach out to your local legislation, your city council members. Those people are there to work for you, and you can meet with them, attend city council meetings, and speak in public comment. That is something we do a lot here at Clean Earth for Kids. It's something I do a lot here in Vista, where I live, because these climate action plans kind of tying with environmental injustices. If they don't have what you need or what you guys want, a lot of injustices can still occur, whether it's air pollution, whether it's policies that only affect certain areas like a poorer area and so forth, a lot of things. So it all kind of interconnects. And I think it's really important for those of you looking to find where your voice can be heard to focus on these as a plan and as a solution. And I just want to thank obviously Dr. Mustafa. Thank you so much for everything that you're doing. And I want to thank all of my fellow youth board members for everything that you guys do for the earth and everything. And we did have one question, and it was from Tara Hammond, and she was talking about what made amazing youth activists interested in stopping the climate crisis, and how do you suggest we get others involved in the movement. So I'll let other youth board members also speak about this, but for me personally, I got into this movement when I previously lived in Florida. I saw environmental injustices occur in my community. I know that when we had more frequent hurricanes, there were certain communities that were severely impacted and were impacted for months on end. And then there were certain areas that were barely impacted at all. And seeing that disproportionate and impacts, but also an aid to the certain communities really inspired me and a few others to, get involved in our community and in our clubs. And as for things that you guys can do to get involved, obviously, board member, Cleaner for Kids, we have a bunch of opportunities for you guys to get involved in numerous ways, whether it's STEM, whether it's art, visual art, anything that you can use your voice and you have a platform for that voice, as well as getting into like things on a school level, whether it's clubs or local nonprofits such as Cleaners for Kids and so forth. So I will pass the question on to any other panelists that would like to answer.
So Leanna, it was a great question, and then we think you just nailed it for sure. Thank you so much. We definitely all come to Cleaners for Kids with passion to help the environment. And just as Dr. Mustafa Ali has shared with us his reasons for wanting to come and work so hard on environmental justice issues, when we hear about the problems of lead, when we hear about the problems of pesticides being used in our communities, and when we see the rollbacks and things like that. So we're so excited that so many people that were working in the climate movement are also now talking about reducing air pollution and water pollution and joining us with our 16. So because of the time, it's already 6:43, and we'd love to thank all of our attendees for being with us tonight, and thank you again to Dr. Mustafa Santiago Ali. We're so excited about that, and thank again CARB, California Air Resources Board, our interns working at different universities throughout the country. Annabelle's on the call from UCSD, so thank you so much. Kirsten from Cal State. We have people on the call from North County Climate Change Alliance working really hard on solutions. Of course, Jay Klopfenstein on our board, John Botorf on our board, and many others that are on the call, Food and Water Watch, local activist Christine Gorman, and so many others. Also, of course, our consultant for Team 1 as well, Jim Wong, Encinitas Environmental Commissioner. So thank you so much for your help with that. We don't want to forget about David Garcia. And thank you, David. You came to help us and to help us get out pesticides from the county of San Diego. So thank you so much for that. And the important work that David Garcia and SEIU Local 221 has done. And also, of course, Cipriano Vargas School Board, Vista Unified, who helped us pass the no idling resolutions. Hannah Smith, who is on our call, she wrote an essay, Why School Districts Should Pass a No Idling Resolution. and stop cars from idling. And anyway, so that beautiful essay turned into a resolution that was passed by Oceanside Unified School District and Vista Unified School District, and Judith started doing her beautiful art to protect the air. And so anyway, we all came together. Kevin's poetry, all Leanna had already been doing with walking out, leading sit-ins and walkouts in climate action, and Darren, all of her important work with pesticides. So we've got so many people on the call, and we're so very grateful for that. So Darren, I know you have a few words to wrap up with us, and we would love to invite everyone to join us at cleanersforkids.org. You can send me an email at s@cleanersforkids.org. The S stands for Suzanne. A lot of people put 2 N's or 2 Z's or however it is, but we'd love to have you join us on Cleaners for Kids. So many ways to contribute. So, okay, great. So Darren, would you like to close us out for tonight? And oh, before we do, I'd like to remind everybody, next week we're hoping that California Congressman Mike Levin will be on. We have heard from his office. So he'll be talking about COVID-19, about rollbacks. You guys remember that he is the one that's helping us pass the Senate bill to ban chlorpyrifos everywhere. He's the co-sponsor for that. And hopefully we'll have our consultants on the call again, and Dr. Mustafa on the call, and others to share their important information. And our youth from NAACP, we're hoping, so I know that Alicia and Elijah, I think it's Elijah, right? Anyway, you'll correct me tomorrow, but anyway, on the call, excited to have middle school youth so involved and doing important things as well. So thank you to everyone. And so next week we'll go again at the same time. So we'll have our podcast beginning at 5:30 Pacific time to allow people on the East Coast to be able to join in. Thank you so much for your patience with all of us as we learn our skills. When I say us, I mean me. Anyway, thank you so much. So Darren, if you can close us out, I'd really appreciate it.
Okay, thank you. I think Suzanne pretty much covered it. So for the sake of time, I just want to say thank you again, and we'll see you next time.
Bye, everyone. Thank you so much. And we'll save the questions in the chat. And remember, we're donating to a charity that you guys will choose. So thank you again for your important questions. All right. See you next week. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.